Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Coccari. I'm the Managing Director of HubSpot Ventures. We invest in startups and help them partner with HubSpot, reach our customers. And we're here today to talk about the impact of AI in sales and marketing and how you can build an AI-driven tech stack of your own. AI has had an immense impact in sales and marketing and is changing all the ways that customers are finding their prospects, writing personalized messaging, and orchestrating all of their marketing automation. And today we're going to hear from three incredible investors from some of the most storied venture funds in Silicon Valley about how their portfolio companies are leveraging AI and some of the things they're excited about investing in the future. Please welcome Jennifer Lee, General Partner of Andreessen Horowitz, Josh Coyne, Kleiner Perkins, and Sonya Huang, Partner at Sequoia Capital. All right, so some people think that AI is going to fully automate go-to-market functions end-to-end. Fact or fantasy? What do you think, Jennifer?
I certainly will take the fantasy side. I'm a hardcore B2B person. I sort of grew up in the enterprise field, and I wouldn't say hardcore believers of sales. I think some products are good for using a product-led motion, but if you already grow up into the enterprise field, sales is still very important. And to me, go-to-market is really a trust-building exercise. Like, it's not just a transaction. Mm-hmm. If you really just want a transaction, there's a lot of self-serve flows and products you can build. But at the end of the day, customers and people really want to find partners to solve a problem together, and they want to have the human touch in the process. I would say there are a lot of these processes are very messy, and there are a lot of the steps can be automated and can be helped through AI, but end-to-end, no human touch, all the way, AI-driven go-to-market functions for especially B2B businesses. I'm probably more on the ender side, but I'll certainly use a lot of tools and help with our companies to adopt those tools to enable them to give better and more enlightening customer experiences.
Okay.
I'm going to take the robot maxi side of this. I was on a reference call the other day for a logistics agent company, and one of the most surprising things was they were finding that when they put an AI agent on the phone to call customers, it can negotiate better rates, better margins than a human can. And I think that that's one of those moments that just makes you re-examine your priors. Because I would have believed it's fundamentally human-to-human selling is like the thing we have to bet on here. But to me, there's actually increasing evidence that bitter lesson: never bet against scaling AI. These agents may actually be better at selling than a lot of humans. And so I'm going to go full AGI maxi here.
I'll probably do somewhere in between. I think sales, to Jennifer's point, is still going to need some type of human interaction. I kind of call them like tastemakers, whether it's an SDR, or sales rep, or support rep, to just inform the AI. But I think the AI will do a lot of the orchestration, scheduling, things like that, almost operational workloads behind the scenes. However, I do think marketing is just like a wonderful RL problem, which is like, how do I spend an incremental dollar at like the highest ROI, or ROAS is what they call it. And I think that is a really cool application of reinforcement learning. And I eventually do think a lot of marketing will be fully end-to-end automated. In fact, I think marketing eventually will start creating the content for you and then pushing it to the campaigns and coming back and iterating and trying to get you the best ROAS possible. So I will take the AI maxi side on marketing.
I will say though, I think AI is the great equalizer. And so if you look at what's happened in a lot of the sales tech stack in the enterprise over the last 5 years, not just the sales tech stack, but also the way teams have been hired, sales ops, SDRs, all these big armies of people. I do think that AI is the great equalizer, and SMBs are going to have all that power of all that fixed cost in their pockets thanks to AI, and that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. And it also feels like once companies have these tools, it will be about how well you can still utilize them, having the right strategy and the right defined customer targets in the first place to really make the most of it. Do you think there's nuance in the size of the customers you're targeting or the type of companies you're selling into from an industry perspective on whether you can really leverage AI fully in that way?
I think there's certainly a lot of nuances. If you're working with a very complex sales cycle, a very complex customer base. Of course, there's a lot of understanding to have around the organizational level that's more hidden knowledge, not public. Like you can't really find that information without having a conversation with the counterparty. But there are a lot of more transactional-ish, more sort of cookie cutting, more automatable sales processes that you can find signals from outside. What is the tech stack customers are using? Who are the right ICPs? Are they looking for solutions like this? Do they already have existing knowledge? Like a lot of that can be gathered from public data and use it to really target the customers more effectively and even automate a lot of sales processes to help customers onboard the product easier. And these more, I guess, streamlined and simpler sales processes, definitely there's a ton of automation opportunities through AI. And I agree with Josh on the marketing front. It's like you can right now have this army of agents that helps you target a message and nudge and enable, educate the customers way more effectively if you're doing these sort of lower ACV fast sales cycle campaigns.
Yeah, but I'm with you that sales is so much about trust building, and in larger deals and larger companies, that so much of that is human driven. I think we'll always be relationship driven. Sonya, a year ago you wrote Sequoia's reasoning era thesis and argued that agents that took actions on behalf of companies and users would really be the next wave of AI and agentic systems. Yeah. I think year on, that's clearly happening. Where are you seeing agents really work end to end to complete work? And where do we still have a ways to go?
Yeah, so the crux of the piece was we've gone from the thinking fast era of AI, meaning like pre-trained on internet scale data, can respond in the snap of a finger, to the thinking slow era of AI, meaning, let me actually think through this problem at inference time, let me spend the compute and like really think this through before giving you an answer. And I think that, clearly that's become the next scaling law. We've scaled pre-training. We're starting to hit diminishing marginal returns on the thinking fast axis. And on the thinking slow axis, we're just still at the beginning, right? Like there were results last month on the International Math Olympiad. Nobody would have guessed that AI was going to win gold in the International Math Olympiad this year from a general model. And so we're just kind of scaling this reasoning paradigm, and I think it's a paradigm that's going to carry us for a long time. And these models it turns out they're extremely powerful for companies. There are some companies in the application layer where, I described the application layer for AI overall as it was a land grab over the last 3 years of like every law firm, every hospital, every sales team is picking their AI champion. And at first it was just a thin ChatGPT wrapper. But many of those companies in the application layer are now using the latest that's happening in agentic scaffolding, in reasoning models, and using that to deepen the capabilities that they can provide their customers. So we've gone from, if you take the legal AI use case, for example, we've gone from, you have a nice kind of ChatGPT interface that rags on legal data, to now you have reasoning models that are actually allowing lawyers to reason their way through complex legal documents and many hops of reasoning. And I think you see that playing out across the industry, and so I'd say we've kind of done the surface area land grab, and it's kind of the agentic reasoning era is now beginning.
Yeah, it seems to especially work where you have sort of verifiable outputs like code.
Yeah.
Where are you still seeing agents maybe fall short, or you don't think that either the capabilities or we have the scaffolding right to kind of complete end-to-end work yet?
Yeah, well, so one of the most interesting things about the OpenAI math result in particular was that it's a general, hard to verify domain actually. So like you can run a piece of code and like say, does it compile? Does it do the thing you thought it would do? A math proof takes a PhD, in some cases like an hour of like tracing the proof of like, did this thing actually do what I thought it would do? And so this was one of those kind of ceilings hanging over people for a long time of like, are we gonna hit a wall with RL? If you don't have verifiable rewards, can you actually scale it? And to me, the most important insight from the math results was actually, you can start to scale this axis even if it's not easily verifiable. And that's a little bit of a segue. I think the more important takeaway though is like, we're going to be, as long as you scope these agents correctly, you give them the right tools, you give them the right goals, you give them the right environments to run around in my opinion, there is no ceiling. And where people are running into ceilings today is it's not properly defined enough of a scope. So you're asking the agent to do too much at once. It's the same with like if an intern joins your company day one and you say, hey, go do what would Brian Halligan do? Like the intern has no idea, right? And so it's all about building the right scaffolding, building the right sub-agents. I think what Claude Code has done with sub-agents is a fantastic example of that. So to me, like the math results of like this stuff is possible should make us all dream like there are no excuses. We should not see walls in front of us. And it's all about the execution now of like setting these agents up to win.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think it's a big part of our strategy at HubSpot is to provide all the context agents need right there on the platform and sort of the right scaffolding guardrails to be able to operate and kind of get started. And that's what I wanted to ask you about a little bit, Josh. You've invested in companies of all sizes. And if you were advising a smaller company today or a founder who's just getting started that wanted to kind of take their first steps in using AI automation, where would you advise them to start?
So maybe I'll start with the framing and then I'll give you some examples. So my general take on this is that you kind of want to think about the intersection between high cost, low risk, and probably like a narrowly defined success outcome. And what I mean by that is that think of use cases where if AI were to automate some percentage of it, it would be a meaningful thing to your business, right? It would automate some cost away. But it's not high risk in that if it goes awry, you're going to lose your top customers or you'll burn your brand. And the last piece is like this like narrowly defined success outcome. The reason I say that is because oftentimes I'll talk to customers and I say like, how do you know this AI tool is working? And they just don't have an intuition around it. So you really have to have a clear ROI and like instrument the metrics to say like, no, very quickly I know this is working or it's not. Some examples of this, so very basic ones, are just, can you personalize your sales collateral so your sales reps can have higher conversion rates for whoever they're talking to? Can you give your customer support rep an AI co-pilot so that they can reduce resolution times for different tickets? So there's a bunch of different ranges here. I'm still a little bit skeptical of going all in on fully autonomous agents to start. I think when you string together a bunch of these agents, you're going to have cascading errors. It's going to undermine user trust. I would really encourage starting with a kind of a co-pilot mechanism, but eventually, if excited about something and have the right constraints to Sonya's point, you can try out these fully autonomous agents.
But one of the use cases I love is actually related to a company I know you've invested in called Interpret, which uses customer touch points and data from across different channels and all the touch points you have to sort of synthesize what you should be building in your engineering roadmap or pain points your customers might be having. Can you talk a little bit about like how that use case has played out for them and their customers, and like how you actually think about like the just unlock of unstructured data for guiding what you should be building in the first place?
Yeah, totally. And this is going to relate to a couple companies that we work with, but Interpret is effectively like a customer feedback analytics platform. So your customers are going to talk to you in a million different ways. They're going to go in-app, over email, maybe on your website, et cetera. And it's really hard to distill like what do they care about, what are they talking about, and how does that inform my decision making internally, especially for a product team, but it can be engineering team, support, et cetera. And the idea behind Interpret is like, can I create this like manifestation of your customer that I can talk to for any need, and it's customized to my functional area and what I care about. And that's what they're trying to build by taking in all this unstructured data, as well as some structured data, to understand like, hey, this customer who is $1 million ACV is really asking for this feature. We're not prioritizing that on our roadmap. How are we going to think about navigating that? And I think so. It's very actionable advice coming out of it. It is not an easy engineering problem, but I think they've really cracked it after a couple of years of building against it. But the cool thing about it right now that they're realizing is a lot of customers are asking about how do I get referenced within ChatGPT? How do I influence like my social media and like what are customers saying on Reddit or Wikipedia? Because it sounds like those are areas that like a lot of these LLMs are pulling from. So that's kind of a new area that they're exploring. I'll call it like social media management 2.0.
And this is one of my favorite examples, just generalize this use case, is how now we can really understand, interpret, and analyze large amount of unstructured data from the web, from your internal data, from people's conversations. It's always been the dream in the past. We're trying to like shape and form this unstructured data into word clouds, into sort of analysis of keyword counts to just understand what people are saying, like how they're feeling and they're responding to a product launch, a feature request, or just even how they're responding to our competitors, pricing changes, everything. Like now we just have this tool, amazing tool that can give you the analysis at your fingertips whenever there's new news article, a new Reddit post coming up. You can just like feed it into ChatGPT, feed it into Interpret, and just understand what's the responses from your customers and users. To me, that's the perfect use case.
Completely agree. And that was possible at one point for large companies with huge data teams, but now it's really possible for companies of any sizes, even individuals looking at what they're doing on the web and how they show up. You talked about like AI search and optimization. This has been a huge theme here today, a big part of Yamini's keynote, and how we help people sort of navigate this big change that's happening. I know you both have an investment in a company that helps with AI engine optimization and visibility. Can you talk a little bit about your thesis there and how you think that space is going to play out in the next couple of years? Maybe starting with you, Sonya.
Sure, I can kick it off. The company you're talking about is an AI search engine optimization company called Profound. Like before we get into Profound, maybe I'll back up a step into how we view ChatGPT and OpenAI. We first invested in the company in 2021 and doubled down when ChatGPT seemed like it was really working. And the first line of the investment thesis was, Google is the front door to the internet, ChatGPT is the front door to AI. I think there's something very powerful in consumer behavior that's happening now. I'm sure many of you have seen this anecdotally, and it absolutely bears out in the data. Whereas, before, whenever you wanted to discover something new, the first thing you went to was Google. Now, increasingly, the first thing that many of us go to is ChatGPT. And so as the front door evolves, I think the way that companies get discovered needs to be different, right? The way you're discovered for Google and optimize yourself to be discovered in that search engine. Now that people are entering your house through a different door, you got to make sure that you have the carpet rolled out that way. And so I think that's very much the Profound investment thesis. And we see this playing out across the portfolio. I think it's playing out for HubSpot as well. I think it's playing out, I'm on the board of a company called Mercury in the SMB banking space. We're seeing SEO traffic drop at some of these companies. And meanwhile, the ChatGPT traffic is way up. I know it's happening at Vercel as well. One of the beautiful things about AI is like you can really close the loop on, are your recommendations actually good for customers? So Google is based on PageRank, right? How many pages link to your website? And that's like a decent proxy. It's an extremely decent proxy, right? But now increasingly, like ChatGPT actually has, it's reading all this data from the internet on like, what are people actually saying about what is the best SMB business bank? What do people say are the good things and the bad things? It can actually provide you a recommendation that's much more, I'd say, accurate because it now has language understanding. And eventually, like you see them building shopping and commerce in the app. Like I think they're going to close the flow on the transaction. And so what does that ultimately mean? I think best product wins, right? Google is kind of, you click out on a banner, that's it. Eventually, I think we're building towards a system where the transaction is full circle, which just means best product wins. And how do you prepare for yourself in that era? You just have to have the best possible product.
Yeah. It's true. It does feel like the tactics people are taking now to influence that is more about generating lots and lots of high quality content about the product.
Yeah.
In a world where everyone has those tools and can create lots of content, how does this play out in the future? Does it become, is there still signal from the noise that's generated by all that content? And how can companies stay ahead? Like anything you're seeing in your portfolio, companies in terms of like tips, tactics of how they can really, really stand out in their AI search rankings or results, and how do you think this is going to kind of like play out the next couple of years?
There's definitely a lot of near-term hack of spending a lot of time on Reddit, given that's where OpenAI or ChatGPT is gathering its resources and information. And there's also just learnings about what is the best way to not just generating a lot of fluff in general, I guess marketing articles and data, but really positioning for the insights that AI is gathering from the public source and also your internal domain, such as blogs, documentation, or even GitHub code bases of bringing the right message into the AI search engines.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of like SEO 10 or 15 years ago. It's just like the wild, wild west, and it's amazing returns on your investment. Like just be in the right places and try to position yourself as like almost like assertive authority for a given topic for the queries you care about. And then it becomes a question of like, okay, what's the information economy that these like LLMs are retrieving from, and how to become part of those core things. And it's very easy to influence, but just talk to Profound. They'll help you with that stuff.
But yeah, it's true. If people are going for recommendations and insight, you have to be genuinely helpful and not biased. And if you can do that, you are authoritative. Shifting to sort of generative content, I think we've all seen last couple of years the quality of the content of all types, voice, video, images has really, really increased and is suddenly unlocking, I think, even more use cases than ever before. I want to kind of go through some of the different modalities and what you're seeing here. Maybe let's start with you, Jennifer. You've invested in 11 Labs, which does amazing generative voice, now music as well. How is 11 Labs using their own product internally for sales marketing use cases that could be, representative for others too?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to talk to 11 Labs SDR this morning. They're using their own voice model to build an internal SDR, mainly for qualification of inbound interest. This is not like outbound SDR. They have a lot of SMB or mid-market businesses really wanting to get in touch, but they still need to qualify for the ICP given companies are growing really quickly and the sales team can only take a finite amount of leads into the sales pipeline. But this SDR is a great actor, being able to speak multiple languages and qualify the customer's intent really quickly to drop some of the customers into the pipeline and move forward from that, or answer some questions that just like in real time the customers can unblock themselves, use the self-serve plan, start paying and leveraging the 11 Labs platform immediately. And that's one of the use cases I just found fascinating of how much leverage you can get in the specific process of go-to-market through the voice agents. Yeah. And I would just say generally, as a firm, we're huge believers in how AI is helping every single domain in their function to leverage creativity tools all the way from images, audio, to video and so on, or website generations. I'd say this is where AI is really the best at, is giving you ideas and helping you ideate and communicate this better with your end customers. Like if you're already trying to describe a feature, why not just like generate the outline of that and show it to your customer? Like, is this what you're looking for? Even as a customer support manager, not having to be super technical, but now you can communicate through real functional products, or you can sort of generate a mock-up pretty quickly with these image models too. So that really helps with this back and forth communication that we used to have to spend a lot of time hopping on a Zoom and describing the features and so on.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that I think has really increased in quality so much is the AI avatars and videos of humans. You guys have a portfolio company in this space. What are some of the use cases that had really worked for them, and what has surprised you and kind of maybe thought wouldn't be a good use case for AI humans, but is actually
Actually, quite
working.
A few of those.
Yeah.
So we work with a company called Synthesia that's doing a lot of AI video, and a couple of fun examples of this. We've had a public company CEO give their earnings call with a Synthesia avatar in 30 different languages across the world. We've had corporate communications to like frontline workers because they want to interface with a video and not like read a PDF about some new product launch or maybe some compliance training. I've seen SDRs send personalized videos of their own avatar with the right tonality and disposition. So like, is it kind of capturing their character, and it starts off a lead really nicely. And I've even seen like marketers have Synthesia video on their front webpage, and it's actually interactive. So I can like talk to the avatar. It can lead me down a certain funnel if maybe I'm interested and have high intent, or maybe I'm not the right fit, and then it'll politely decline my lead. But there's a bunch of different permutations I've seen. It's an amazing time to get into AI video personally, and I think we're just like the early innings of it. The one big takeaway for me is like humans do not care if something is AI generated or not, in my opinion. Outside libel and anything like that, assuming there's not someone we recognize, but as long as the video resonates, it will work. And I think you can do a lot of cool stuff, especially with like very little budget today with AI video.
Good. One of these cases I've been personally skeptical about is interviewing. I think it wouldn't feel good to me to be interviewed by an AI, but I don't know. What do you think, Sonya? Will we see that in 10 years? Do you think that'll be like commonplace for recruiting?
I think absolutely for the initial screens.
Yeah.
Maybe one day for all the screens. Like I think there's some early data that you can actually train these agents to be a lot more rigorous around the axes that matter for the job, versus all of us humans have different mental biases. And so again, I'll take the robo-maxi version of the world. I think we're going to see it eat into it more and more, but probably starting from initial phone screens first.
Oh. And you're seeing, is that checkout what Synthesia has seen too?
Yeah, they don't have an AI recruiter yet, but I totally buy that. This kind of reminds me of, if you looked at like Gong or a couple other competitors to it, like 10 years ago, everyone's like, this is insane. I don't want this thing recording me on the Zoom calls. And now it's like totally commonplace. You join a Zoom call and there's like 15 of these agents popping up. I think it's the same thing. We're just going to get very normalized to talking to AI agents of some capacity.
No.
And like, for example, and you mentioned Gong, and like in the sales world, Actually, like these coaching drills are actually really interesting because in the past you could kind of review prior footage of a deal, but like there's no way to get great other than just practicing. And I actually think that's a phenomenal use case for avatars. So we're seeing some interesting use cases develop around there.
Yeah. So
for the interview question, I think the dopamine hit of the AI responses and feedback is real. So whether it's for sales calls, for interviews, like you can get the instant feedback and how you're performing.
Yeah.
It is probably more welcome than we have all imagined.
I mean, definitely on the practicing side and like getting better. So we talked about a lot of like tools here and things people can put into practice. I think orchestrating all of it is tough, and bringing the right data to these tools is tough. What are you seeing in terms of companies and patterns for how they're orchestrating AI tools and bringing the right data to them?
Look, I think you could freeze AI development today, and I think we would see phenomenal productivity gains, agents running in the wild, many orders of magnitude beyond where we are today. It's kind of the point I made earlier on, like we're just starting to, we started with the GPT wrapper era, and we're just starting to run into the agent era. And a big part of agents is, are you giving them the right scaffolding? Do you have the right orchestration? Do you have the right tools that they're hooked up to? Do you have the right data sets?
Yeah.
Are you doing the right context engineering around those data sets? Are you doing proper authentication and authorization into those tools? And so that's a bunch of like really gnarly piping and plumbing stuff. And what we're seeing is most companies are choosing to either home roll or go with developer platforms for that. We're investors in a few of those companies: LangChain, LangSmith, LangGraph. So we just had a board meeting. It's Lang everything. N8N is also doing extremely well in the no-code space. In case developers can build these amazing orchestrations, but if you're a non-developer, if you're just a business user and you get overwhelmed by that, drag and drop is actually like a pretty fantastic way to empower your business users to build automations. So I think we're seeing most companies choose to standardize on a single orchestration platform in order to empower developers and business users at their companies who actually have the domain and workflow knowledge to then put those workflows into digital agents.
Yeah, and where are you seeing the kind of collection of data? I mean, like, what are you seeing as being like some foundational platforms or patterns there?
Yeah, I can take that one. I think certainly people in this audience, like HubSpot's kind of your go-to CDP. I think you just got to start with some repository where you can put all of your data, especially unstructured and structured, clean it up, and then do interesting actions and workflows on top. So not just saying that to show HubSpot, but like really it's a wonderful platform. So I would start there.
Well, I think one of the things that's been interesting for all of us is, what a fast-growing company looks like now with all these tools has really changed. Like the benchmark of a high-growth startup is wildly different than it was 4 years ago. Kind of curious from the investor lens, like when you're seeing companies, what are you really looking for now in terms of either kind of benchmarks or just founder attributes that you think really will lend itself to being like the next 100 million ARR breakout company?
Yeah, it's such a great question because the new generation of AI native companies definitely have rewritten a lot of the learnings we've had in the past of how much pedigree the founders have, how much experience they have in a particular industry. But what essentially really matters now is, can they adapt to the market really fast? Can they really drive behavioral changes and build an understanding within the whole company of how can we serve the customers better while adopting a lot of these AI tools to really maximize efficiency, but also maximize the customer satisfaction experiences. So I see companies just going from end to end, full AI maxima of interviewing their employees for their AI capabilities so that they can build customer functionalities, features, or custom solutions really quickly with some of the web coding tools. And they'll help support, answering support questions with much higher response rate and faster timeline to, again, bring that customer experience to the next level. And then, of course, building these platforms with a deep understanding of how the new use cases are forming. 11 Labs is a great example of going after the commerce, media, telecom industries where there's just a lot of use cases for voice agents and voice capabilities where you can reimagine what the experiences look like and just really doubling down on those customers' demand. And that's what we're seeing really exciting results of seeing these companies go from 0 to hundreds of millions in revenue in a short few years.
Look, the numbers in AI are they're disorienting as hell. I think most investors, I haven't been at this job for decades yet, but most multi-decade investors feel this is the most disoriented anyone has ever felt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like everyone has access to this insane technology. By some grace of God, we have access to it over API. So like all of us get access to this magic. What are you going to build with that? And there's just money hanging everywhere. And so to me, this is the era that accrues to the builders, like the people with high agency. We were just in the green room before this, we were talking about video agencies. Like the way that people do kind of creative marketing is just so different. And you can just print cash right now if you know how to use these models to create great video campaigns for customers, as one example. So to me, there's cash everywhere in this market, and it's all about, do investors have the tenacity, the speed, the grit to take this magic as an API, which we've all been gifted with, and just go run at walls.
Yeah. Any of the most really common attributes you're seeing in the best founders or teams today?
I think they nailed it.
Yeah.
No, nothing to add.
Yeah.
They're great prompt engineers.
It does feel like the people that are trying the tools and the fastest rate of experimentation, I think, is it, and really making sure that you're continually trying everything and turning it back into a feedback loop. The founders that can do that effectively, or the marketers that can continually push that loop, I think, are the ones that are going to succeed right now.
And I'll highlight one more thing is brand building and marketing becomes front and center again in this kind of gold rush era where building a brand, building the awareness, getting customers on board with your mission, it's sort of the holy grail of marketing and product marketing too. Now matters more than ever. Like it's the first time I've seen across the board every portfolio company, how do we get great social media marketers? How do we get great product marketers so that we can tell our own story? Because we're really redefining a new genre of how we're building these tools. So I think it's really a great time.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much for the discussion. Really insightful. Can we hear it to the audience? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you,
guys.
Adam.
Enjoy Inbound.